What's up, guys? It's John, and I wanted to talk damage control for a minute because we've been going into this for a while, and the one thing that I've brought up continuously is this damage control that the NFL has been putting out, dating back to really about a year ago. They've been doing it for a few years. They'll pretend that they've been aware that we were aware 3, 4 years ago, but that's just not the case. It really wasn't until they got McAfee as their corporate puppet. And again, speaking of corporate puppets, the best comparison is Adam Schefter. He's the inside guy. He's like the Dave Meltzer of WW or of the NFL. Dave Meltzer's just the guy who gets all the scoops as far as wrestling is concerned, and he's usually wrong, just like Schefter. So anyway, Sheffy's really been running with this lately, and again, you have to try and put this in perspective. It's one thing for a goofball former punter and his miscreant friends to be joking about it being scripted and all these different satirical bits that they do. It's a completely different thing when you have a top executive. He's not an executive, but I mean, I feel like he basically is, but a top analyst, if you will, who is on speaking terms with Goodell and one of the NFL's top figures as far as just spreading what they want to be accurate information. That individual cracking jokes. And you'll see it from Gene Steratore to, these guys are supposed to be, at the very least, professional. And you could see that even they are now joking about it. Roger Goodell himself is joking about it. I didn't see the video, but somebody asked me if I had seen the video where apparently somebody asked him if the Super Bowl was scripted for the Chiefs and Taylor Swift. And he kind of stuttered a little bit. So I don't know. Here's what I do know. And I went into this last year. The biggest reason I said the Chiefs would not repeat, because last year you could tell they were trying to get ahead of the story when it was obviously scripted for Mahomes when Brady retired. And again, the NFL, very much like WWE with The Rock, very out of touch in my opinion. And I'll go into that in 1 second. By out of touch, I mean they knew that people understood. A good chunk of people understood that it was scripted, but they underestimated the sheer numbers of people. And you'll see all the replies here are people either just joking that it's scripted, and that's fine. I mean, I consider those people savable because they at least have somewhat of an open mind. And then you have people saying like, okay, you're just admitting it's scripted. Like, so you'll see it on both ends. Obviously, you just have random comments too. But the thing is, they would not be doing this if they did not know that so many people knew it was scripted. If it was still a very small, tinfoil hat group wearing group of people, then it would just simply be ignored, like it was in the beginning. But now that you have so many people, and again, you can't even tell if people are joking about it, but they're entertaining the possibility, which is not something that they want at all. I don't think that's what the NFL wants at all. So, double overtime or not, it obviously probably not going to double overtime. I did say we've been due for overtime for a while, although I don't think it's going to be overtime. But you can see, I don't think they're going to open, this possibility up to people and then follow it up with the most scripted Super Bowl of all time. It just doesn't make any sense at all. So last year we had the reason that we liked going into this year. I like the Niners personally because I thought they were the best team on paper. It would make sense. I love the Brock Purdy story, but as the season goes on, I went into Mahomes versus the world, and I said the one contingency is there's no way Mahomes can win that game because last year the whole reason people thought it was scripted, it wasn't because of a logo. And again, they're not talking about the logo theory now, are they? They're completely past that, but they're still joking about this script. And I know it's because they want to be ahead of the story the minute the Niners win. The minute the Niners win, they can come out and then say, oh, well, if it was scripted, the Chiefs would have won. Everybody that said it was scripted for the Chiefs, yada yada yada, and they'll think that they've accomplished their goal. Let's see what else is being said. So again, it's just let me see what this person says. It never happens in the regular season of size. Okay, so this person's just clarifying. So you actually have people who think Chef Shefty actually just accidentally, leaked the script. You have people that are fans that think it's just a funny joke, and then you have people that are right here. It means people are making light of the sport being fixed by making jokes when it's not. So this is basically like the vibe that's being given off. They're trying to, and they did this with the table read when they just handed out these scripts. And you see people, this might not have been the best idea. You have a lot of casual fans that probably weren't even thinking of it being like it's not a script. Weren't even thinking of it. This girl's probably just a Taylor Swift Swifty, and she probably wasn't even thinking of the possibility. And now these people are like, wait, how do they know? How does Shefty know the result? What's going on? And now they're going to look into it, see the commercial, see all this nonsense. So, like, this is not a great idea, in my opinion. So, you can see some people are confused, some people know why it's being said, and a lot of people are saying, yeah, nice try, but we still think it's scripted. I think Paul Caruso might be onto something here. Maybe he's saying for the number 58, I'm not sure why, but I just feel like we might get a blowout. But it's just very interesting. So anyway, if they were just going to dismiss the color theory and, like I said, the Chiefs weren't the most obviously scripted team, they'd be done right now. They'd be continuing to mock us, and well, not us, but mock the people that got the color theory wrong, point out how the ridiculousness of it, and just they'd be going into football. But they're already bracing themselves ahead of the game for people that are obviously believing that it's scripted. So the fact that they know that, again, a good chunk of their fan base believes it's scripted makes me 100% sure that the Niners are going to win. And I know I've said this in many videos. People keep asking me to do videos on Super Bowl, and I'm like, I don't know how many I can do. But I do like to go into new things. And again, this is more of a damage control, in my opinion, narrative than it is about the Super Bowl itself. And Shefty's coming out saying, as you can see, just here's a straight up report. Agreement was reached. Jesse Minter, good job for him. Jim, follows Jim Harbaugh. And then right under it, they have this joke about the script. And you can see this joke about the script obviously got way more of a reaction. But it's just very interesting to me. Again, had they accomplished their goal or, ruled out the obviously scripted Niners Ravens, they wouldn't be putting this out there. There has to be a reason. So, doing this and then having the Chiefs win, yes, it's ridiculously blatant, and I guess the NFL might do that. But you have to think about, just like the psychology of it. Why would they do this? Why would they continue to mock us for thinking it's scripted? And then again, just have Mahomes win, and then all these people are going to be like, yeah, okay, you've been joking about it all year. And then basically the entire script came true to, you got, and I even said it's interesting because, like, they said they're going to write Mahomes out of it, and basically, this is the first year that when you think of the Chiefs, Mahomes has not been their number one draw. They got like a 50% uptick from Taylor Swift, so she's their number one draw, which is pretty crazy. So, they can joke about it and try these tactics, but they're not working. They might work on this, again, this might work on a small group of people. If the Niners just beat down the Chiefs, then I believe a lot of people might say, okay, it's not scripted or something of that extent because they're just expecting it to be Mahomes. But we have to remember the reason this started. The reason this started was not because of the 49ers or the Ravens or any of these teams. It wasn't because of numbers. It wasn't because of gematria. The NFL understood that a good portion of their fan base caught on to how Patrick Mahomes was just being pushed as the next Brady. And they want to do that, but they can't, in my opinion, just run with the wind here now. Especially you have articles like this. And in the past, I'd overthink it and say, oh, maybe they're trying to Jedi mind trick us, but it's just not the case, Most of the fan base has their mind open to a certain extent. And anything beyond that, the NFL knows, okay, well, they're not going to question this, that, or the other thing. What people's minds are open to is the fact that it might be rigged for the Chiefs. And people complained it was rigged for the Patriots. The difference was they weren't saying rigged. They were just saying, oh, Tom Brady gets special treatment. Bill Belichick cheats. All these different things. The difference now is they're saying no. The NFL is positioning the Chiefs as the next Patriots, and they just can't have that, in my opinion. And it's funny how WWE runs parallel with the NFL. Like as we have Rocky returning and getting booed, the Chiefs are getting booed, and all these different things are going on at the same time. And I don't know who's copying who. To be quite honest, I don't know if it's like a Project Looking Glass type deal. But again, you can just see like the fact that they're being sarcastic. They were joking off about this, joking about all this, just laughing it off. A year and a half ago. Then a good year ago is when McAfee himself said, "Oh, yep, everyone thinks it's scripted for a new Chiefs dynasty." And of course, with the dynasty comes back-to-back Super Bowls. So like, I feel like they already set up that narrative, and it's been like this long-term, in my opinion, horrible, in my opinion, tactic that they've tried to take here, where they've like woke all these people up just so they can try and knock them into a coma with this swerve when the Chiefs don't win. I don't think it's going to work, but I do think that if they have the Chiefs win, Taylor Swift, and all these ridiculous, outside factors, and all these things that just fell perfectly into place, you're going to have so many more people asking questions. And then they're going to have to spend the entire off season with these jokes. And maybe that's what they want to do, troll the fans. I just don't see it. I see the Niners winning in a game that doesn't look very scripted, where again, the team of all stars goes nuts. Of course, Mahomes will have his plays, but I just don't see. I don't see Mahomes magic. I don't see a ridiculous comeback. Again, if they do that, they're opening up the floodgates, and maybe that's the goal. I mean, just completely kick out the old group and bring in the young Swifties. But again, them losing isn't going to make a difference. Like Taylor Swift's fans are not going. If she's not there, they're not going to watch. It doesn't matter if they're winning, losing. So they're from what I can tell, the Vegas has them getting engaged like towards the end of next year. So then, it'd make a lot more sense then to do it. And even then, I think it'd be very obvious. I don't think I just don't see them going 3 years in a row. But we'll go into that obviously next year. But yeah, I just think again they're trying to get ahead of a story here. They're trying to prove, just like they did with the logo, they put it out there, waited for it to not work out, and then said, "Oh look, it can't be scripted." In this case, they can't put out articles saying everyone thinks it's scripted from Mahomes, but they're basically saying that because again, people were not looking at the Niners, and we were Mr. Irrelevant because we saw the WWE booking, but most fans were just looking at the obvious things. Okay, it's Mahomes, it's scripted for the Chiefs. He's going to go back to back, just like Brady. All these different deals. 20 years removed. And again, I get that the NFL is very tone deaf, but obviously they know there's a problem. And this is why it's a victory either way. That's why it's a great thing. It's a victory because they're covering it now. Meaning, again, there's enough people that are saying it's scripted. And you can tell by the responses, again, it's not like it's working. I mean, you have the people that are already convinced that okay, it's not scripted, and these commercials are nothing but harmless fun at the aluminum hat wearing folks. But I just feel like they're just again going out of their way to keep this going. They didn't have to say a word. Chef didn't have to put out a tweet. So there's always why. They always talk about the where, when, what, why, how, and been hearing that a lot lately, actually, for some reason. And the why is always the most important here. So again, why did Shefty put out this tweet? It's because again, people are going into the Super Bowl, and this is the first time ever that this has happened now. Because last year we didn't have this. We had Pat McAfee trying to tell us it wasn't. Now they're joking that it is scripted going into the Super Bowl. Like that is just a huge, in my opinion, win for everybody that's been saying for the longest time, back before it was a popular decision, that it's scripted. And I would like to, a lot of people in this community, give you guys credit because we were the first ones to call it scripted. Everyone else was calling it rigged, I tried to make the distinction. It's not rigged. So when you rig something, it's a little different than when you script something. So rigged implies the referees are involved, or there's some kind of just happenstance algorithm set for a particular group. Whereas scripted means you have both sides in on it together. Nobody's getting rigged. They're the only ones getting rigged are the fans. So that's a very important distinction, and the reason we went into it that way is because, again, we never looked at the gematria really. We never really looked at the symbolism, all that. I mean, there's a lot of different aspects, and they're all important. But at the end of the day, I just look at the business aspect and how you would book, and how WWE has successfully booked, and now you have the NFL clearly copying WWE. Now, I did a video on how WWE is actually copying the NFL, so fair play with The Rock here. You know, going into WrestleMania, people don't know what's happening, and it's almost like they're trying to make that where it's like the Royal Rumble's not going to give people the result. You know, just like if you knew the result of the Super Bowl the first week of the playoffs. I mean, we did, but most people didn't. But my point being, you're not going to really watch. Okay, you don't need to watch those next couple weeks. You know who's going to win. Same with wrestling now. They're kind of taking the NFL formula of making it like a playoff type deal. So it's going to be a couple months that we're figuring out the WrestleMania card. I just wanted to talk about that for a second because you could see how they copy each other and how they, whatever term you want to use, but they just bite each other's styles in ways. The NFL and the NBA copy WWE way more. I mean, WWE has been ahead of the curve on so many things. The international appeal. The NFL is just tapping into it. The NBA is a little ahead of the NFL. They've been getting international guys for like the last 8 to 10 years, so even longer than that. But in unison, WWE has been doing that for decades. But yeah, as far as the Super Bowl booking, I'm noticing that in the WWE now. And again, these people, they're merged with UFC. They have the same common, in my opinion, backers and interest that run them all. So they're all sports entertainment. So I think the NFL understands that now. But again, with all these satirical comments and the fact, I know I bring it up a lot, but again, it's like the first video I did on my, I think it's like the NFL conspiracy playlist, something like that. And Pat McAfee is a good portion of it. And that was the reason I started covering it because I like to cover things in live time. I don't wait like, you know, 3 months later to bring up the last 3 months. That's pointless. I like to bring things up that are going to happen. And we did that with Pat McAfee. We're like, oh, look what Pat McAfee's saying now. I bet you he says this next. He says that next. Yep, and now let's see where he goes with this. He's probably going to go ahead and say this. And we didn't like get every, you know, possible angle that he might cover right, but we predicted a lot of what he was going to go into. And a lot of it was, again, him trying to use deflection and all these different skewed arguments, in my opinion, to prove it's not rigged for Mahomes. And there's the distinction. Rigged for Mahomes, scripted for Mahomes. It wasn't just scripted, it was scripted for Mahomes. Here we are a year later. People think it's scripted more than ever. Again, you have Shefty, who's, again, a professional reporter, and now you have him making these jokes. Now, maybe Sean McManus made the joke, and Shefty's just. But either way, he's getting that joke out there for a fresh and an old audience to see. And a lot of the fresh audience is saying, What's happening?" And then what do you think people are going to say to someone that's like, "Oh, what do they mean?" "Oh, well, people think it's scripted." "Oh, why?" "Oh, well, Mahomes is being pushed as the new Brady, and this, that, the other thing, and Mahomes won last year. The referees always help him out." People are going to, more people than not, if they're bringing up, or if someone says, "Well, who's it scripted for?" 9 out of 10 people that believe it's scripted are going to say for Mahomes. He's the new Brady. Not many people are going to say, "Oh, it's clearly scripted for the Niners." It's just so obvious. It just doesn't make sense. So, it's obviously scripted for both, but for the winner, way more people that believe it's scripted, and the fencers are the most important. There's your purple states, there's your undecided independent voters in the election. They're the ones here. They're like, okay, well, if I see this, then I think it's going to confirm my belief that it's scripted. But if I get this result, then you know what? I might just think it's lousy officiating. And again, at the end of the day, the Chiefs winning does nothing except turn, this 4.6 million views into 20 million views, and not just Schefter putting it out, but people on the other side putting it out, and again, just exponentially more and more people saying it's scripted. What a ridiculous coincidence that you got Swift and all these different things. She wins the Grammys. Kelsey wins the the Super Bowl, they get engaged. I mean, it's so ridiculous that there's no way. Just like I went to in my Rock video where I said, as delusional as The Rock is, I do not think that that WWE is that tone deaf. And as delusional and whatever term you want to use, psychotic, just completely out of touch reality as the NFL might appear, I don't think they're that tone deaf. So I think this is another great article supporting our argument that the Niners are going to win. We're getting closer and closer to the day, so looking forward to the game. And I know a lot of people lately have been a lot of people have been on the Niners, and a lot of people have been jumping over and saying, you know what, I'm starting to see more and more making me like the Niners. They're talking about faulty practice fields, again in favor of the Chiefs. So it's they're setting these little, in my place, in my opinion, dominoes into place to make it look like it's set up perfectly for the Chiefs. So when they lose, you better believe Pat McAfee will be the first one out there saying, I thought it was rigged for Mahomes. Him, Swift, they were going to get married. Swift was going to, they're going to have their honeymoon, right? Go to Vegas, all this different nonsense. They're already in Vegas. You got to hear Pat McAfee with his hypotheticals. So, Niners lose, Pat wins another one. I don't see how the NFL just continues with it. I really don't. It doesn't make sense to me. What makes more sense again is the team of all stars that's better on paper that in a real league I am taking. Okay, if I'm playing Madden and it's being simulated, I am taking the Niners just because they have the best all-around team. They have a great coach. Like they have everything that a team should have theoretically to win. So, the Chiefs are missing a lot of those components, and I went into the distractions in my last video on the Super Bowl. So, yeah, I'm just seeing more and more leading me to believe that again we're gonna get Mahomes versus the world. All the people that believe it's scripted are gonna believe Mahomes is gonna win it because he's the next Brady. And what the NFL is gonna do is they're gonna try this what I believe to be not so clever swerve and have the Niners win. So yeah, let me know what you think. I just thought I'd cover this while I saw it. I'm rarely on Twitter, but I was like, let me just see what's going on. And I saw this tweet and I thought it was interesting. Actually, it might have even been on Google that I saw it because I don't go on Twitter much. But I found my way on here, and again, it's just very interesting. I don't understand why, again, they would be pushing this narrative if they think they won back with the Ravens Niners not happening when McAfee was celebrating. I told you there was a lot of disdain in his voice because, of course, they hadn't completed the goal. All they did was make it worse. Again, it's just like wrestling with, the Rocket and Bood now. It's like you try something, you try some damage control, and it never works. It always backfires because you always underestimate the intelligence of your audience. And in a lot of the NFL's case, it's rightfully so. They're not underestimating the intelligence, but there's a lot of people that are open-minded and do understand if all these different things in the world can be a complete game, so can this. And that's all it is. It's a game. It's scripted entertainment. There's a reason that's on the tickets that it's for entertainment purposes only. It has nothing to do with taxes. I went into that in my NFL players admitting it's scripted video. That's in the same playlist I went into earlier, where we have over, I want to say about 2 dozen players, maybe 18 to 20 players. I don't remember the exact amount, and then there's more of them by the way. But top players that in one way or another admit it's scripted, whether it be the referees, the rule changes, the coaches, the players during games, or witchcraft. And yeah, witchcraft has been confirmed by Tom Brady. So again, it's all very interesting to me. And anytime I see this kind of comment, it just seems like a comment in jest to mock the idea it's scripted. But then when you unpeel the onion, you understand. Okay, well, what are they trying to dismiss? It's scripted, and then again, the more important part for Mahomes, because that's what people are saying. That's what people were saying. That's what they were trying to dismiss. So having Mahomes win just completely in my opinion, it undoes all of these articles that they've put out. It undoes the commercial. It undoes everything Pat McAfee said. It undoes all the damage control, and it's confirmation bias. And whether it's bias or not, it's just a psychological thing where when you see something that confirms a belief of yours, you're going to believe more in it. So it's confirmation bias and just confirmation in general for the people that believe it's scripted. Obviously, if you're watching my channel and you know me, you know that there's really nothing that would convince me that it's not scripted. They would have to do a pretty darn good job of, again, having just some more organic looking football. I'd have to see some actual tackles. I'd have to see Madden looking less realistic, which, by the way, Madden looks more realistic these days. Wrestling looks more realistic. So, yeah, I just don't think they'd be joking about how, scripted the Super Bowl is going to be days before it. After they tried to squash the logo theory, if they weren't trying to actively force another narrative, which again is we all thought it was scripted from Mahomes. What happened? So I thought I'd cover this because I thought it was some pretty interesting news. Well, it's not news; it's just one guy's goofy opinion. And who knows? Maybe we get double overtime. I think they're trying to lean us towards, well, a scripted game would be a really close game with Mahomes coming back, and then we might just get like a boring, not boring game. They're going to make it entertaining, but an uninspiring game where the Niners just kind of beat the Chiefs pretty bad. I think that would make some sense. It would be like the best way to get people off the scripted idea. Why would you have a blowout in the Super Bowl in a scripted game? It just doesn't make sense. Why wouldn't Swift win? It just doesn't make sense. Again, there are so many reasons you can go into for it not making sense. Whereas if the Niners win, it's really hard to say, oh, it's because it's scripted. It's like, well, they have the most Pro Bowlers. It's all stuff I've went into before, but with this article for new context, I wanted to just kind of provide why I think they're taking this route. It's to try and again get ahead of the story and then get us with the aha. You thought it was Mahomes, didn't you? So I could be wrong, but it's just what I've been believing. We've liked the Niners for different reasons anyway. The Mr. Irrelevant story. Again, there's a great script hiding in plain sight, and nobody's saying it's scripted for Purdy. You have people that are saying it's scripted for Purdy, are the people like us, like that are watching the channel, that are already 100% convinced it's scripted, and we've been convinced, so we've been able to do some fantasy booking for like the last year and look at all these different equations. The people that are just figuring out it's scripted or they're thinking it might be scripted, they are thinking 100% Chiefs, Mahomes, Swift, the Hollywood team, if you will. It's just the team is like a complete movie. Everything about that team. So you can let me know what you think, but that's just my opinion. And I figured I'd go into this because when we got Adam Schefter coming out joking about it, basically Goodell joking about it, the announcers have gone from just saying, "Oh man, you couldn't script it any better," and they weren't joking. It would be a good game, and they would just say it because I think they were putting it in our face. But they were really just trying to, oh, what a great ending. They really weren't saying it as a joke, and now they're like, oh man, the scriptwriters really rent the town. So you can see that pivot, and it's a big pivot because there's only 5 stages of denial, 5 stages of grief, and they've certainly moved from stage 1 to stage 3, and they might, I don't know how they would reach acceptance. They might accept and acknowledge that we understand, but they'd have to come out and admit it. That, to me, that'd be the only step 5, them actually admitting it, not in jest. But pretty close to like I said, they're between like anger and bargaining, where they're like mad at the fans, but then they're also trying to put out these type of articles to almost bargain with us. Like, and by bargain I mean prove us wrong. And I feel like this is their way of doing that, putting out a joke. Again, everyone's going to go to the Chiefs. If you ask someone who's just recently believed it's scripted, they're going to go with the Chiefs. Just like in the NBA, they'd go with probably the Warriors or the Lakers. It's just, they're the default teams, the teams that have been established, the players, more importantly, that have been established. So you can let me know what you think. The line's like, I think it's back at 2. I was worried it was going to move to 2.5 and maybe 3, but I heard it was back at 1.5. But last I checked, it was still at a solid 2 points. So they can still call the Chiefs underdogs in this game. And again, the favorites win the game. The number 1 seed favorites winning in the Super Bowl. How can that possibly be scripted? So that's just to me the most logical way they're going to go with this. And I feel like again, there's a good chance we're going to actually see a pretty lopsided game. It's been a little bit since we had I guess actually the last time it was pretty lopsided was when the Chiefs lost to the Bucks. So we might get a repeat there. And again, that one was so obvious because we had Brady versus the next Brady. So I just can't imagine they would be that tone deaf and run with the Chiefs here. And I can't buy the Swifty argument because those people aren't going to stop watching if Swift loses, and it's not even Swift losing; it's her fiance losing. So, or soon to be fiance. If she doesn't get mad and write a song about him after he loses. So yeah, I just don't think they're putting this kind of stuff out if the Chiefs are winning. It just would be so, in my opinion, counterintuitive, and everything they do has to be for a reason. So I just don't think, again, they're going to really just gas people up with this possibility and prove it true when the Chiefs come out if they win, and it's just not going to happen in my opinion. So yeah, still loving the Niners. A few days away from hopefully getting a preseason pick, which would be nice. We tried it last year, we didn't get it. In the NBA, we didn't get it preseason, and again, not easy to call and hit the preseason winner. So no shame in missing them. We haven't had a lot of sample sizes. We've only been around for a little, about 2 years now. So this year, if you know, my NBA picks the Celtics, so we'll see what happens there. And obviously, we got the Niners. So and some interesting connections with those two teams. Basically the two most winning franchises in history, tied. I think the Celtics would break the tie if they get it, and the Niners would be tied with the 3-6s. So yeah, let me know what you think. I personally just think this is a little bit of again, them trying to get ahead of their own story. I don't think it's going to work, but I think it tells me what they're planning with the Super Bowl. Again, step one was the logo theory. Got you guys. It wasn't a logo theory. I guess you have to go to another theory, and then the bigger theory is the Mahomes one. That's the biggest reason that people started calling it scripted in the first place. So it's like a 2 year. I mean, you never know what's going to happen, but I just can't imagine for like 2 years they're going to try and get us onto something, only to then give it to us and then confirm what so many people believe. So yeah, uh, I'm curious if you still. I know a lot of people are saying, no, it's so obvious. It's got to be the Chiefs. It's so it's in your face. You're overthinking it. I don't think so. This isn't a deal of like us like reading too much into something. I've already loved the Niners, and again, this is just something where I just feel like it bolsters their case. I don't see why this article would benefit a Chiefs victory, but I do see how the Chiefs losing, now they can go back to the articles, all these jokes, all these different notions that they've given off, and then say, oh well, again, if it was scripted, then there's no way they would have let the Golden Boy lose. So yeah, I'm curious what you guys think. Game's getting a couple days away, so about 5 days away. So it should be pretty interesting what we get going up into the game. I'm waiting for some of these talking heads like Stephen A. Smith. The guy, I don't really watch him anyway, but the guys on First Things First, Shannon, to maybe go into this because all we got so far is Pat McAfee, and we've got Schefter, and we got the announcers, but the guys that do the shows on ESPN, I haven't really heard talk about it. So I'm curious. I'm sure they will be. I mean, if Shefty's cleared to talk about it, there's no way these other guys aren't. But again, I think that's what landed Shannon in some trouble last year. Again, I don't know if it's a coincidence or not, but I put out a video saying I think Shannon slipped up. Again, the video didn't age too well. It was like 5 reasons why I thought the Heat were going to beat the Nuggets. To be fair, I had the Heat going there at least. Like a lot of people, once the Sixers got eliminated, at least they were my preseason pick. A lot of people didn't even think they had a chance, and I don't know why, but against the Celtics it made sense. So we got that part right. But then when they got to the finals, I had done a video. It might have been when they were playing the Celtics still. I can't remember. But either way, it was like 5 reasons they're going to beat or why the Heat are going to beat the Nuggets, something of that nature. I don't know exactly what it's titled, but it was in that finals, when they were playing the Nuggets. And one of the things I'd gone into is how Shannon Sharp was like, "Oh, Skip, if you want to make some money, a lot of the betting handle is like 80% of the money coming in is on Denver." And he was talking about one of the games, and Skip kind of cut him off, and then they just like changed subjects real quick. And I had gone into it. I said, it's really weird that an analyst would be saying this is how you should bet because the betting handle is going one way or another, basically admitting that fading the public is the way to go. So I thought it was interesting. I put it out in that video, and sure enough, the next day Shannon Sharpe was fired or just decided to leave. I thought that was why. I'm like, it's interesting timing that he would say that what I believe to be a pretty egregious slip up, and then the next day they're like, yeah, we don't need you anymore. So maybe not. Maybe it was something completely separate. But for it to be in the middle of the finals, that announcement, I found odd. And when he said that, I was really surprised. I'm like, these guys talk about the statistics and who plays better at home and shooting percentages. They're not talking about, hey, you should fade the public. And when Shannon said that and then kind of stopped himself and Skip kind of interrupted him, I thought something was a little odd. So maybe I'm wrong, but I thought that was why something might have happened with Shannon. And then on my very next, I did a video. It's probably easier to find. Basically, Shannon Sharpe fired, where I go into what I just went into with you guys, how he said that, and then within like 12 hours, it was on Twitter that he was no longer going to be on the show. So yeah, I think they've been doing this damage control for a while, and now we got Schefter doing it. And again, there's no reason, in my opinion, they're going to do it and then give us the Chiefs victory. It just, in my opinion, would be just if they're doing it to troll fans and basically they're just mad, so they're doing it to spite the fans. They're cutting their nose off to spite their face. I think is the term, which I think is a stupid term, but I know it's a term, so I just figured I'd use it. But yeah, it's just very, uh, you know, they're stabbing themselves. They're not just mocking the fans. They're literally confirming things that are going to make fans possibly not watch their product. Maybe 10% of their fans don't watch the product. And again, the Swifties are going to watch either way. So I don't think it would make any sense. I just wanted to. I know I've repeated a lot of things, but it's because I have people that will still ask me, like, what do you think about this? Or, why do you like the Niners so much? And it's just because of all the reasons we've gone into. They're the most believable, and they have an amazing story, and everyone else, I believe, is just on. Even people that believe, most people that again that believe it's scripted, believe the Chiefs are going to win. So that just makes me think. Again, they have two ridiculous teams in there where they have this crazy story, but I just think the Niners are, in my opinion, way more believable in a non-scripted league, whereas the Chiefs, in a completely scripted league, I feel like most people think they're going to win. So thought this not article, but this stupid tweet was interesting. I didn't go into what Sean McManus. I didn't know go into the whole quote. This might just be all he said, but just the fact they got Shefty out here running damage control, going up into the Super Bowl. He's friends with McAfee, obviously, who was just on the show, and McAfee is the one who, again, says, "Oh, everyone thinks it's rigged for a Chiefs dynasty." I feel like this is their payoff. They're going to have the Niners win, and then they can have all their guys come out and try and do the same thing they did with the logo theory. You guys all thought it was going to be the Chiefs, and what happened? So let me know what you think. And like I said, we'll be covering some more stuff going forward. But I just figured anytime I see an article like this, I consider it a victory because it just means, again, that they are panicking. They are worried. They are aware and acknowledging that a big enough portion of their fan base for them to have to put out commercials, which aren't cheap, and hire comedians to write these different angles and these different bits, and have their top analysts, instead of talking about the game, talk about a script. To me, that's a big victory that they're now acknowledging it, and pretty soon they'll probably have to admit it. And I think it'll probably be within a year that in some way or another they come out and they say that while it is competition, our number one job is to make the fans go home happy, or some stupid thing like that. Like they're going to make some concession because something's got to give. So take care and happy earnings.